Hi everyone, this is Rose and this is my sister Renata. Today we've decided to go live because both of us are kind of experiencing the same issues and we wanted to talk about that. So it was issues related to kind of starting your life over at, around the age of 50, which is it's a lot harder than starting your life over around the age of 20 or 30. For some reason, a lot of feelings come up. You're going through menopause or you're postmenopausal, and you're just a different person. So you're really entering the world when you're starting your life over at this age. You're really entering the world as a new person that you really didn't know before. So Renata and I were just talking about that earlier today and how some of the challenges with that. So we kind of wanted to share a little bit of what we were talking about with live, because I think a lot of people have this issue, right, Renata?
Definitely. Yeah, I refer to myself, and I'm not going to include you, as an ex-loser. So I'm in the ex-loser club at this point in my life. And I feel like it's starting over from, it's not even starting over. It's just starting. There's nothing to start over. I don't want to go back to anything that I had prior. So I'm just starting.
I agree. I feel like I kind of feel the same way. Like I'm an ex loser, and not. I don't think I really. Well, yeah, I did.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of mean. It's like, cruel, but in a way, it's like when I think about, like just kind of doing nothing for a long time, but it wasn't just nothing. It was being pretty sick, emotionally and
Right.
mentally. So yeah, I guess maybe I should turn it into a new, healthier or just healthy version or something.
Well, honestly, I think it is true though in a lot of ways, because I truly considered myself a loser for many, many, many years. That was my reality. I was a loser and everybody else was
Right.
doing stuff. So it is almost like I am an ex loser. In fact, I wasn't really a loser, but according to me and the way I interpreted myself in the world, I was a loser. So
Right.
it's
Yeah, me
basically
too.
from, I'm not like I'm that's the thing. So that's the thing to differentiate. I don't look at other people going through the same struggle as me and or who went through the same struggle as me and say, "Oh my god, you're such a loser." It was very I was very, in my head and super depressed and, not doing well, and I just thought I was a loser and why couldn't I, get over this and move on and do what everybody else was doing. And so yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the term loser is more of a self-identification than, a
Right.
name calling other people.
Right. And I feel exactly the same way. Like, my days were spent like at least, a few times a day. Like, why can't I just can't seem to get it together. I can't, like I was just, so stressed. And then I guess, and on, medication that made me, just sort of like hope that I wasn't going to have a panic attack and go on to the next, when do I take the next one? And I hope I can manage that. And it just became like this never ending cycle of not being able to really do anything that I felt that wasn't loserly, like wasn't, I couldn't quite get my life together the way that I wanted it.
Right. And so let's for me the loser things, the sort of hallmark loser things that I thought I was loser. I wasn't doing anything that I felt passionate about, like employment wise. In fact, barely could hold down a job. I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't have a big social scene going on. I didn't have any money in the bank. I didn't have all these sort of indicators that,
Right.
culture says, if you have these things, then you're not a loser, then you're something. So, and what I've realized in the process of undoing my loser persona, let's call it, right?
Yeah.
That all those things do not make a human being at all. Like they just don't. So, and reintroducing myself to the world in a way where, that isn't sort of doesn't use those things as indicators.
Right. I feel the same way that, like although I, have a family but it was like this real, like a personal achievement base was how I was judging myself. Like, what, and do I have an income? Do I have, enough income? When most of the time I had no income. But, even though I was stay-at-home mom, I still had this, intense pressure that I put on myself and from the people around me to work. And then I went and, graduated from college, and it was like nothing I couldn't I just it wasn't no matter what I did on paper, even though it wasn't that much, but no matter what I did, it didn't change anything. It didn't change how I felt about myself. And it really took, quitting alcohol and then benzos. Just quitting alcohol, I thought that was the reason, like I really thought that that's what made me a loser. And with that, and like what that caused, like the underemployment, and just like not achieving even personal, like hobbies or things like that. But what it really was, it took me very slowly getting off the benzodiazepines to and then getting very ill, but like sort of waking up from that right now as an ex loser, so really an ex pharmaceutical person, an ex alcohol drinker. But it's like that is what really it took to wake me up, to say like, okay, wait a second, I'm not a loser. But I did sort of, for about 18 years of my life, wasn't quite living either, so I wasn't living.
Right. So I gotta put my face back on. There I go. So I can split. I can make it so you're just on the screen, and I did that, and then when it switched, I forgot how to change it back.
Oh, I saw you the whole time though.
So yeah, I know you can see me, but the people out there can't see me. See, yeah. So anyway.
Right.
So I was gonna respond to that, and the fact that I also was on medication for 25 plus years, and I think that partially I didn't feel good about myself when I went on the medication. So
Right.
we were both from a pretty traumatic childhood, and then we went to self-medicating with alcohol. And then for me, I got sober. You didn't, but we were both put on pharmaceuticals, psychiatric meds, and we were both diagnosed with a lot of problems. So what that did, I had no like base to sort
Yeah.
of, to like
Right.
pull from
That's what.
or look back to. All I had was sort of
Right.
like just a bad, a bad scene. Like, I just wanted to find a new life, but I didn't even know where to begin with that because I was never given the tools, any tools to even like, how do you start over? What do you do? So all I had what was going on in my head. So the problem with the medication is it kind of like freezes your brain, and
Yeah.
you no longer have access to making any changes. You can't make any changes. So what you just sort of freeze yourself in this state of like horribleness. So basically we froze ourselves in the state of trauma. That's what we did. So
Yeah.
and we never had any tools. We had very low self-esteem. We had I mean, we were pretty like emotionally and spiritually bankrupt from
Yeah.
the get-go, right from the get-go. And then adding medication to it made it so we couldn't access anything.
Right. It takes away all like creative resolution for anything. So,
Right.
you can't invent a way to get out of it. You're stuck. And the worst thing that we were talking about earlier is, being spellbound. You're spellbound by the medication because the medication is making you stuck, or, really feel worse. And where you would have gotten better by now, you know what I mean? When you're at like, even a year, it's like, okay, wait a second, I should be better. But instead, it makes you feel like so dependent on it and you don't see that it's actually the medication that's keeping you sick or making you sicker. So, that went on for, I don't even know the time exactly, but I'm thinking it was around 18 years. but I think it might have been longer. So it's like being stuck in that state of, just no inventiveness, no creativity, no way to get out, just sort of, this existing feeling really bad, about myself personally and like, physically, like it was, just feeling, very like being stuck sick, very sick. So yeah, and it's right, you're right. I don't feel like I actually was able to, heal or sort of find new ways to deal with my early childhood trauma. And, instead I was absolutely stuck in that place of like, PTSD. So that was every day. So now it is really difficult, but it's also like this, breath of fresh air to be like, oh, this is my life. And it's new and it's very new and it's exciting.
Yeah, it truly is exciting, but it takes time when after you get off the medication to even realize the state of mind you were in. So
Yeah.
we were
Oh
talking,
yeah.
I was talking to Renata. So you're a little over a year out, and I'm actually 4 years out, right? Are you?
Yeah, it was Halloween of 27 or 20, yeah, 2017. So yeah, like a year and a half.
You're a year and a half out, and I am. But you had cut to practically nothing like 3 years before, so you were just on that super low dosage for.
Yeah, but that low dose, so it didn't help me with anxiety, but it was enough to keep me sick.
Yeah,
Me
I know.
really bad and have like really bad pain everywhere. So it was like I didn't really stop until I actually stopped,
Right.
So
So
yeah.
you were on this like this forced
Stupid.
paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I know that. So you were basically on that. You went from your regular dose, and when you quit drinking in what year was that? 2015 or 16?
January of 2016.
So January of 2016, you went into rehab, and you quit the alcohol, and they took away like 90% of your benzodiazepine.
Yeah, so it was I ended up it wasn't quite rehab. It was a detox that they just dropped me off off the benzo except for this really low dose. And then I was so like in shock and it took months to even sleep, but I just stayed on it for fear. Like I thought it was, oh my gosh, this is going to get worse, this
Right.
horror like shock to the system. But it was not a smart thing to do. I should have just gone 100% cold turkey at that point because it wasn't helping me at all. It was, like I said, it was just keeping me sick. So anyway,
Yeah. So what happened? So I'm a bit further ahead of Renata as far as recovery goes. And I mean, I just sort of, so we're in two very different places right now. So I feel like Renata has, I mean, she's had a lot of stress since she came off of the benzodiazepine, which I think adds more to the PTSD and stuff like that. I mean, you've been living
yeah,
PTSD since the what happened, because your family life kind of fell apart, and a lot of things were going on there. But for me, I've had a very stable, and I don't have kids. So
right.
I also was on a lot more medication than you for a lot longer. And I think it took me a really long time to recover for some reason. And I was like, why? I mean, why did it take me so long? I have no idea. I don't know. And I don't really care. That was my journey. But
I
so
don't,
now,
I think it took you, I mean, I'm still recovering. So I don't feel like I'm going any faster. I just feel like probably because I have kids, it's like I sort of have to do, like, I have to do these things, like, like I know you had to do things too, but I had to do whatever I needed for me and these two kids. And it just forced me to move. It was just really moving. It forced me to,
yeah.
actually, move more. But I don't think that I'm healing any faster. I think that it's a really slow process. And what's been really cool about it though, is you and I have so much, like just genetic things in common,
Yeah.
and of course this, very similar upbringing, almost the same really. And
Yeah,
so
that's pretty much
I get to
the same.
I get to see what happens before it happens.
Right.
So it's like this, like this fantastic time capsule. So I mean, there are some things that I can avoid, like I can, like things like pitfalls.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that it might be sped up in that way just because I've had a guide. So thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, and I kind of wish that I had someone like me. This,
Oh yeah.
going through it because there was so much I had to learn. I had to learn, like, first of all, I was like entering the world as if I was a small child because I had
Yeah.
never had, like proper love or proper
Self-care.
care.
Yeah.
Like I never learned how to do any of that. Like so I had to relearn all that stuff over again and how to do it for myself. I couldn't go anymore to go find a guy to do it or find a friend or find a pet. That was one of my things like taking
Right.
care of pets. I didn't have kids, you had kids, so there was definitely different stressors going on there. I did have a lot of freaking mental problems though.
Yeah. We both did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the depths of the depression though. Like I feel like I don't know, like there are things that are probably not significant, but like I never had like, the suicidality, I can't even
Right.
say it. But at the same time, I was killing myself every day, like, so, so it's like, it's kind of the same thing. It just manifested a little different. So, but I do think that, yeah, it was pretty close to being in the same boat. And I really do, Rose, thank you, because I really do, appreciate that you've been able to the biggest thing that you've been able to do is tell me that I'm not crazy and that, this really is part of this withdrawal syndrome. And because that feeling that it's like, oh my gosh, I must have MS, I must have cancer, I must have this, because you just think you can't possibly be that sick and not have something, totally catastrophic. But then you come to the conclusion that it is catastrophic. Because, like I lost, had complete muscle wasting, and I still, even right now, I still say, I have this doctor's appointment coming up. Hopefully they can figure out what that actually was, when it seems like I already know what it is. It's just so hard to believe.
Yeah, I know. I think a lot of people have that. They just can't believe that this is that medication doing this to them. And it's
Right.
not just the physical pain, it's a lot of the mental and spiritual pain.
Yeah.
Like you are completely like I was totally separated from my body for like 3 year a good like I'd say a good 3 years after I got off the meds. Like I was like experiencing depersonalization on such a deep level. I didn't know who I was. It scared me to look in the mirror.
I know. I still don't look in the mirror that much. It's very hard. Like I put a little bit of makeup on. It's really hard to get close. And it's like, well, why is it? But it's sort of like, yeah, you're getting close to somebody. It's like if I was just doing this to you, you know what I mean? Like it's this feeling like, okay, this is not, it doesn't feel right, So yeah, and it
Yeah.
is personalization where I don't feel, I mean, with that though comes some relief too, because when I did look in the mirror, it was a ghastly,
Right.
like Tales from the Crypt type thing, where at least I didn't totally identify with it. I thought, oh God, like who's that scary looking Skeletor person,
Right.
Um, so yeah, like I think that is part of, I kind of don't like using PTSD, but it's like but it's like that the depersonalization, um, the PTSD of it, like it's part of the protection of yourself. Of you can't really, it'd be difficult to watch yourself just wasting away, you
Right.
know. So you kind of remove yourself from that, not intentionally, but yeah, it's a very scary thing. Very scary.
Right. So trying to start our lives over in the midst of this weirdness, like all this,
Right.
like the sort of the separation from reality, that's what you feel like. There was a lot of, I think for a lot of people, they think, oh my God, maybe I really am, mentally really messed up because I can't, I feel so weird, because it's such a strange feeling. You really do feel like you're cut off from everything. So,
Right.
and then to top it off, since we had all this trauma and didn't have that foundation that, most kids get when they're growing up or whatever, we had no foundation at all. So it was like, where is that? Where am I? Like I
Right.
had no idea where I was or who I was or anything. And it was like I had to naturally just sort of let myself kind of like almost like bleed through this illness.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like you are literally playing it by ear of finding out who you are.
Yeah.
So you're just like, oh, like I wonder what's next, or you don't even wonder, it just happens. Like it's just like, oh, I guess, little by little you become a person, you
Right.
know. So
So
yeah.
a big part of my thing was blind faith. So I was like, like I knew that I couldn't force it. Like I couldn't go, okay, since I don't know who I am, now I decided I'm going to become, a analyst, and I'm going to make this chart and start doing all these things. It was like, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like, oh, I got a clean slate and I can do whatever I want.
Right.
It was like, no, I was dealing with nature and it was going to decide when I could do the next thing. It was like very, very natural, you know, close to nature experience. Like I truly for the first time realized like this animal and I need this care, this nurturing, these elements, these elemental factors in my life, just like any other animal on this planet. And until I realized that, like figure that out, like even the core of myself is this animal, then I'm not going anywhere.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and the same thing, like it's also this existential crisis.
Yeah.
So like, just figuring out like, I like had it stuck in my head, like that we were like ants, and like I had to break away from these, like the going, life has meaning to life has no meaning, life has meaning, and it wasn't intentional. It was just happening. And so you just kind of have to sit back and, let it happen and let it play out. It's actually insanity. I have to say that it does, like if somebody had told me that this is how I was going to be, I would think, well, that's just a crazy person. You
Right.
know, it's really not. It's just finding, trying to find and hang on to the things that you want to keep and discard the ones that you don't, like
Yep.
so
And
that's
sort of trusting that it'll naturally just take care of itself,
yeah.
and that you don't need to call a doctor. You don't need to go to therapy. I mean, that could be helpful for some. And, to try out stuff, you can just trust. Like I tried out a lot of things on my own, and it kind of made me realize even doing that was part of the process. I realized like I'm my own scientist. I could do, I can change things, tweak them a little tiny bit, here and there by, walking more or moving more or, taking a certain supplement. Not that supplements were all that helpful for me, but, stuff like that though. It was like,
Yeah.
changing my
Collagen.
diet or, cutting sugar out and things like that. I felt like I could almost tweak my existence just a tiny bit to make it more comfortable and to make the process a little easier. But it also was really empowering because I had never, like, I was an addict, like all
Right.
the way to my core. I thought that's who I was. I thought I was, born with this disease, like they tell you in AA. And I was just this drug addict that needed to sort of, control my urges, my urges
Yeah.
for caffeine, my urges for smoking, my urges for whatever, sugar, because that was really my true first addiction, and it came back like tenfold, when I got off of meds.
Yeah. That's still a big one for me. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Like totally like, oh my gosh, please, no more Dr. Pepper.
Right.
But
Yeah, it's hard. But I think like, in this state where I'm at, like I wasn't able to ever quit sugar while I was on the medication because I mean, I didn't even have access to that part of like I didn't think I was capable.
I know, and you weren't.
Right.
So you were right.
Yeah.
During that time, you're not. So yeah, it's sort of, yeah, it is. It's like this is a new reality, and it's very I'm still like, I'm still struggling. So I'm sort of just I'm looking to other people, just the people around me, the kids, they're happy and healthy for the most part, and it's sort of like, yeah, that's sort of a refreshing thing that they, like I can see unadulterated, like, life,
Or
where I'd messed with, basically my chemistry so much that it's, I needed to come to some kind of baseline, and I just, I'm still, that's still happening, but it's definitely, like it's on the upside for sure. And so are you. You're doing great, like really
yeah.
great.
I mean, honestly, so I was like I said, I had barely ever worked or anything, and I just so I started a part-time job a year ago, and it's like my year anniversary at this job,
Oh,
next month. And it's like, that is a huge deal for me. I'm like, wow, I couldn't do that for 2.5 decades.
that's amazing, Rose.
Yeah.
Like it is
But
amazing that, and it's amazing that it's been a year. It doesn't seem like that long, but it's really, it's great that it is. That it's like, okay, you did it. You did it for a year. That's,
yeah. Yeah. And even like, a lot of the diet changes. So now I haven't, like, even the sugar thing. So, like, I've had months, like spans of months where I have no sugar. And, I never was able to do that, like, in my
Yeah,
life.
I'm not at that point yet. Um,
Yeah. So it was like, that was a slow process. And I'm realizing that, like, it is kind of like I have a clean slate.
yeah,
And
that's really cool.
I can kind of go, this is how I want my life to be, this is how I imagine my life. And I actually believe that that is going to come true, whereas before I remember trying to, people would be like, you have to have a vision. So I would be like, okay, what's my vision? And I would just like be in tears, like, I'm such a loser, I can't even, I can't even have a dream.
Right. Same.
Yeah.
Same. I didn't even have a dream. I mean, somewhere in the back of my head, I had this, like even though I'm like really not that materialistic, I had like, okay, someday I'm going to be, like shuttling my kids in a white SUV. Like I don't even know where it came from, and it seemed like even now it seems ridiculous. But like that was like a total like a glimpse. Like I would get this little glimpse of what I thought my life should look like, but I had no like I really didn't think it would ever happen, and I didn't have a dream. Like you said, I had no dream,
Right.
and now I'm just starting to, be able to build a little fragments of them, more than that, more than just, a little image. But I still like, I've actually, the last couple of days, I've told myself, okay, I have to write down things that I like to do, things that I think are, that I'm good at possibly, but just like a list of things, because I truly lost myself, and
Yeah.
with me, it was, I was in, a marriage that was, just not helpful for my personal self or growth. And it's like just it really is like this brand new baby. In fact, can you mind if I switch the subject a little bit?
Yeah.
um so
No.
i was
I'm-
I was thinking about this when you said toddler. um I was watching this Joe Rogan podcast, and there was one of the guys had spent some time with Amazonians in Colombia,
yeah.
and he was talking about how and he's this really physically fit guy, and his team, that the Colombian or the Amazonians thought that like they were like toddlers, like literally toddling, because when they were like walking across, like over trees and stuff like that in the forest, they were like lumbering like toddlers. And these people had they didn't have shoes, and they were like running up trees, they said, like just basically like flying sort of through the forest like it's nothing. And then I just thought about that whole like the keeping shoes on your feet is really keeping you in this state of like toddling. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's funny. I don't know why I just thought of that. But yeah, and their feet they're like hands. So it's like just the lack of use for us has become like, we're like infants. So yeah, we're using.
Absolutely. I think you guys thought I was nuts. I'm really into Katie Bowman, who's this
Yeah,
natural. Yeah, and she's like, walk barefoot, do it's like, go hang on trees, basically, literally, that's her motto. Get rid of your chairs, stand, walk barefoot, go hang out, go outside and hang on trees.
right.
And
Yeah, you went through that for a while too, but yeah, that probably am just getting to it where I'm like, what am I doing with my feet? Why am I covering them up? Like why am
yeah.
I acting like they're this useless thing? But yeah, it's just I don't know why. I had this picture of like us toddling around.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of humans do at this point in time, like city living people and stuff. And really, I feel like I was also given an opportunity. Like, I was in this world of, just complete like oblivion, and
Yeah.
then these medications were taken away, and I feel like I was like, wow.
Right. Yeah. It's like,
Wow. I mean, look at all this stuff and look at all these things I've been told to wear shoes and like I needed a coat and all this stuff. And it's all a bunch of crap. You don't really need shoes and a coat. You know what I mean? It's like, of course you do in some cases, but we're a lot more, we're much different than what sort of our culture has told us. So basically, I can jump into cold waters without having a heart attack. I can't, like stuff like
right.
that.
We're tougher. We're
Right.
tougher, more resilient.
We're
And
way,
we're also,
right.
yeah. And we're more, I don't, not inventive, but we're like we're very resourceful. So it's like, and all that sort of has been, we took it away from us, but we're back to this thing where it's like, kind of this existential crisis type thing where all this, this like layer of, this medication fog, and it's even a health fog, but mind fog, health fog is gone. And all of a sudden you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing anything? Like,
Right.
and then you're left with, wait a second, I do have to earn money to live. And so, but yeah, so you have this like, big pressure, but all this other stuff, you're sitting there thinking, what in the world? Why did I do this for 48 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
What
crazy.
I've found is a lot of the stuff that I thought, oh, I need this, I need that. I don't need that stuff at all.
I know it's been spoon fed to us that, we're supposed to, we need these things when we in fact don't.
Right.
Um, and then another thing that I wanted to talk about was, being a billboard for the pharmaceutical
Oh,
companies. I don't know if
yeah.
you want to say
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So it's like, when we're like, or at least for me, when I was so locked into taking medication, benzos for anxiety, I really did think that I needed it, for life. I thought I was going to need it for life. And I, hit it, but only to a point where I felt like when I do tell people I'm going to be strong and say, I need these. These are, you don't understand. Like, I have something wrong with me. I have terrible anxiety. And I did, but I need these, and like nobody's going to take it away from me. So I'm fighting this battle, like really I'm free advertising for the pharmaceutical companies, and I see people doing it all the time with antidepressants, that they feel that like they're a minority that is, they're a minority that has to fight for the right for antidepressants. So they become like these, activists for medication. And what they're literally, they're like the perfect situation and customer for big pharma, because it's like they're with all this, like with this, heartfelt passion, they are fighting for a product that is actually hurting them. Even if it weren't hurting them, why do you sit there and walk around and, defend your Kleenex, you know what I mean? Like, like you go in, ready for a battle to defend this product. And, so they have us all, we're just a bunch of lackeys, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that part is, just sickening to me, that I participated in that. And I truly felt that I needed this and I had to defend it and I had a right to this. And, so it's just, that's something that I see. It's everywhere all the time.
Yeah, I have a big problem with that too. And as you know, I was like, I was a poster board for medication, for Effexor, for Cymbalta, for whatever medication I was taking at any given time. And I like the same thing. I was ready for a battle. If you said, I don't know if those meds are working for you, I'd be like, they saved my life. I would be dead without these medications.
Right. Yeah.
Where do you go from there? It's like, okay, oh, I guess you'd be dead. So I guess, if you don't take, I mean, there's nowhere to go. But I was so, like we were talking about, I was so spellbound
Yep.
that I didn't even realize how sick I was while I was taking the medicine. So it was like, I really did believe that these medications were keeping me alive. And it took, my wake up call, whatever, everybody's is different, to finally go, oh my God, actually a little tiny crack, of light coming in and saying, oh my God, this medication might actually be killing me. And then, that whole thing. But Renata, I mean,
Well, yeah.
I've had the arguments with you because you thought This is funny too. This is kind of funny. So Renata, even though she was on benzodiazepines and diagnosed with anxiety and whatever, I was on antidepressants and diagnosed with depression. So now I realize anxiety and depression are pretty much the same thing, just manifested difference.
Right.
And so like we could have possibly been on the same medications. We don't really know because we don't know what's in those medications. But you would like be like, like, oh my God, she takes so many pills. She's on those
Right.
antidepressants, right? And I would be like, oh my God, she's on benzos, which is like you're high when
A
you're
feel
taking
drug.
benzos,
Yeah.
right? Exactly, like an
Feel
addiction,
drug.
right?
Like that, like it's, psychoactive, and it's like, yeah, they all are. But
Right,
yeah, so well, there's a whole bunch of irony in all of this. So it's like, yeah, we're sort of kind of judging each other for
right,
each other's medication and then defending our own. And then, but I mean, the person, the pay, like the profit is coming to, it's killing us.
right. It was
Killing
killing
us,
us, and
fighting with everything we have to what? To so that some other, some entity can make a ton of money. And
money, tons. So I believe eventually they're not even going to need advertisement because
they really don't.
yeah,
Yeah, they,
because they're going to have people like I used to be and you used to be going around wearing buttons. So here's the latest one,
yeah, yeah.
wearing pins that say "Wear your meds" with a little picture of your drug. So you can buy these online, and it's like a picture of Paxil or a picture of Xanax or a picture of Effexor, and
It's
it's like
genius. It is
yeah,
genius.
I know. I was
Yeah,
like, wow, talk about, and this is like these people claiming that they're stigmatized and that they're, whatever, like seen as second class citizens and all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, right. No, you're not. That's the norm. I mean, basically, if you're not on medication, you're stigmatized now. If you choose
right.
not to take medication, people like if you don't choose to medicate your children, God forbid, the teachers will report you to the DCFS and say it's child neglect or abuse.
Absolutely. So it's like there's the irony is like it's everywhere in this where so and then another thing they do is like there's this intentional manipulation to encourage people to act like a victim, to act like a minority,
Right.
to act, not that those are, one and the same, but in this case they are, but to act like, we're being stigmatized, and then the flip side is it's actually quite opposite, but they want you to believe, or like even other people that use medications want to encourage this, like we have to, we just have to keep battling, we have to stay strong, we have to stick by our meds, and and that, I guess that would wouldn't be fine, but it would be a lot better if they actually weren't hurting you, but they are.
Right.
So it's
We
so
basically have to fight for our victim, like label,
right,
so it's like, really? No, you don't. I mean, seriously, you're not convincing I mean, I'm convinced you can't work or whatever. It's like nobody's actually saying, I mean, possibly there's not enough funding for victims, I guess. There's a political thing, but honestly, it's like I'm not sure that would be totally helpful. Like
no.
victims. I really don't think so at this point, you know?
Well, like now the victims are people that don't want to get on medication. It's like you're told that, that's abuse. Like, how would you like to be stuck with anxiety and have no medication for it? What kind of mother are you? That type of thing. And it's like, you're left like, oh, so I guess I have to put them on pills, like not that actually, but that's the scenario that I've created. That didn't actually happen, but something similar did. But it's like, so if I don't, yeah, like you're stuck in this place of, like I can't even choose to, go a healthy route. And even when like, from, at least in my case, from personal experience, that it made me very, very sick and made me waste, a good 18 plus, probably 25 years of my life. Like I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, let alone my own children or, sisters or anything like that. So it's quite the opposite. The people that are, now like sort of anti-medication, or at least anti, just, simply drugging everybody that, walks by, are the ones that are stigmatized.
Right.
So
I
it's like you're outrageous. That's an outrageous claim. And it's like, where's the data? Where's the data that actually says that these medications work?
Right.
That's what I,
There isn't any. It's hilarious. So there's no long-term studies, none. And
right.
that's basically, people are not put on medications for 6 weeks. People are put on medications for long term. And and all the studies are done on based on the 3 month or 6 month. And to top it off,
Yeah.
those studies show that placebo actually works better than the actual medications. So it is for you, you could just pretend like you're taking something and you would have the same results.
Yeah, if not better.
Right.
Yeah, and also wouldn't have any of the side effects.
No side effects at all. And you wouldn't have to be sick for 4 years after stopping the medication, or for some, I mean, they never really truly get better. And you don't have that risk.
Yeah.
And we don't even know what those, I know I had serious neurological damage, and I started taking it when I was in my 20s, like 26
Yeah.
or something. I mean, what is happening, like, when you give it to a 7-year-old? Their brains aren't even developed. It's like, what are you stunting there? And it's so frightening to me. I actually have nightmares about this. I really do, about giving children. It's like a mass drugging, and it's okay, and everybody's pushing it. Everyone's on board with it, and it's just really frightening. It really is. It scares me.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many, like, to me, I feel like there's actual tactics. There's so many like criminal tactics involved in this. And we're so, especially in the culture right now, this victim culture, it's like we are so ready to fight for our rights. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's like, oh my gosh, so you're fighting for the right to be drugged for the rest of your life, like,
Right. And
it's
fighting for
insane.
your right to be mentally ill for the rest of your life,
Right.
and wear this label and wear your meds, and and it's like everyone there's an Instagram account where she has everybody post a photo of their daily medication.
Can you imagine, Rose, how happy the pharmaceutical
Oh
companies
my
were when
God.
they saw
I'm
that?
like,
Like,
this
wow.
is like a
Why
dream
did they
come
think that?
true.
Maybe they did. Maybe they did think of it. Maybe they're behind it. I mean, who knows?
I mean,
But that is like, let's just, let's say, I don't know, Cheetos, Rose. I like Cheetos. Let's talk about how proud we are to eat Cheetos every day, and let's make some t-shirts and buttons that say Cheetos, and let's see how Frito-Lay, I think that's the company, feels about it. Yeah, they're like, yay, party, woo,
oh my God, they are banking on their stock going up, because they're not going to have to spend as much money on advertising next year and the year after and the year after if this continues, and this
Right.
becomes like a thing in our culture. Like, we don't have to do shit. They're doing it for us. What a bunch of people, like zombies, or I don't know, like, you're really, and then here's another thing that really gets to me. So a lot of people that are taking medication, and me included when I was on them, I thought I was living like, I'm doing what I want. I'm sort of living like this free agent for myself. But then
Yes.
I realized, okay, here's the first clue that came to me. So when there's a hurricane, and you're going to lose all your power and everything, and it's like, okay, you're going to set your house up and be like, hey, what if I don't have electricity for, or I can't go to the doctor or whatever for the next 3 months? This is where you realize this. And here's what you need cash, gas, and your medication.
Yep.
And you have to have yourself stocked up, because if you run out of your what is there any freedom in that? You are
No,
chained.
there's none.
Totally chained.
Like, you're like a stepper. What, might as well have, like, well, and you have an alarm. It's like the alarm's ringing, time to take my pill. And so no, you're completely on the treadmill of corporate America is what you are.
Yeah. We've been with people that their alarms go off, and I'm like, what's that? And they're like, oh, it's time to take my pill. And I'm like, oh, I can't, I don't say anything because I say it here on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't say anything either. I just think, like, of course, like, if you're, it's responsible to take your medication every day. So they're doing the right thing, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so
They're being
like,
compliant. They're listening to their doctor. There's that whole thing too, the issue with compliance.
So yeah, and Rose, the irony of being like, I'm cool. I'm just gonna take, benzos, whatever I feel like it, because I have a right to this, because I'm a renegade. And it's like, yeah, the biggest sucker there is. you
Yeah,
know?
you are so stuck. You are in the matrix. You are locked in. You are a pawn. You are fuel for whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're
It,
free advertising.
yep.
And it's and you have to pay for it. So you're actually paying them so you can advertise
Yep.
for
You are
you
exactly.
know.
So we need to end it there because I have an appointment at in 2 minutes. This was
Okay.
fun. I like this conversation. This is awesome.
Yeah, it was funny. It took me a while to get started, but yeah, I'm feeling now. I'm like, oh, I could go on for an hour. But
I know.
all right,
Right?
fine. All right, yeah. Have a good appointment. Call me after, okay, or text me or something.
All right. Bye. Love you.
Bye. Love you too, Rose. Bye.
Bye. Hang on.